My name's Graeme Wyman, and welcome to part two of the VAMS mini school songwriting introduction. I'm joined again by Simon Paradis. Welcome, Simon.
Hey Graham, how you doing, man?
I'm doing perfect, sir. No complaints at all.
I've lost my razor.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
So I'm the grizzled old man in this drama today.
well, I did, and I got a haircut last week, so I guess, I'm adulting.
I'll find an appropriate point in our seminar to yell "Get off my lawn" just so that it all makes sense.
There we go. Perfect. So, as we said, we are here for part two of the songwriting portion of the VAMS mini school. So, I'm going to let Simon take it away because he has the beginning notes here that starts off with refinement.
Right, which I think is just another way of saying that writing is rewriting. And I find for me the best approach is to not have too many preconceived notions, like maybe a little bit of lyrical invention, like maybe there's a single line that I really like the prosody or phrase of. Mm-hmm. But then sitting around and playing with chords and trying to invent melodies and even come up with stream of consciousness lyrics, I think it's really important to have that lucid kind of stream of consciousness moment and not be the editor yet. Like actually allow yourself to just, have a moment where you just play and sing gobbledygook and try to create words with it. I know that sounds almost childish and weird, but you'd be surprised at how many musical moments come of such a strange process, and then hang on a sec here. And then once you've done that, that's going to be like your base clay. Then you return back as an editor to mold that clay and refine aspects of it, like certain words you don't find are appropriate for what you're trying to describe, or you don't like the prosody of phrase, or there are melody notes that you don't think really actually help tell the story, or there are chords that you wish had more kind of extensions to them to give you more color. Those are things that you can individually retrofit and change once you go to that phase. But that initial phase of just like it's almost like regurgitating something that you've eaten. I know that's a bit too overly descriptive for our audience at home, but really you just want to get as much fresco on the wall as stuff on the fresco as possible, and then start making artistic decisions about what stays.
I mean, just to even touch on your part about just the gobbledygook, like I know it myself, or I've seen friends of their process, and I'm just going to use one example of a buddy from Berkeley where when he would write a chorus, he would just sing the melody and rhythm, but it's basically, this is the chorus part, like just literally repeating the word chorus, and
Right.
that was his process, right? It's not like it makes sense, but at least you can get the melody and rhythm on what you're going for, and then, as you said, refine into what the lyrical content would actually turn into.
And I think we were talking about the Beatles when we first logged on here and started talking to each other, and they were kind of the first pop band to really delve into the idea of a middle eight, or kind of like a bridge that wasn't a chorus or a verse, but it was this anomalous third party structure. And I know other people did it before them, but they kind of popularized that. And I'm almost sure that Paul McCartney himself probably came up with the chords that was the bridge and probably just said, here's the middle eight. This will be the middle eight, like before he filled it in with like his usual brilliance,
Yeah. No, I'm sure like everyone, right, has their own way of dealing with it.
That's it. It's almost like you're breaking in a pair of sandals or something,
Yeah.
However you feel comfortable getting from point A to point B in the process, you get to make it your own,
Yeah, and they get and I know we've said this in the first part. There's no, they're processes, but it's no official. It's so subjective how you get from that A to B.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, you can teach courses and things like that, but again, you've got to find what works for you. And again, these are just tools that we're trying to, impart that have worked for us or that we've seen when working with other people.
And that's a really good point. Viewing swimming lesson videos on YouTube doesn't make you a swimmer.
Yeah.
You're going to actually have to get your ass in the pool to figure out what being a swimmer means. And it's the same with making art. It's like you have to get to know whatever your process and that trajectory is, and then you get to know more about yourself, and then you become, I think, more available to other people in what's exemplified through what you create, because you are kind of developing your own process.
Mhm.
That's what'll make your art unique, is the process.
And the best way to kind of do that is by, I'll use another swimming analogy, but just jumping in the deep end and doing it.
That's it. Yeah.
And so, still working on the refinement section, some of the notes that I was looking at was, again, mine going more through the production side of things, was this refinement could also adhere to the recording process and mixing, whether you're subtracting, adding parts, and again, I'll use the example of when we worked on your record, where we kind of threw everything at the wall, but then we take stuff out that we necessarily weren't going to use. And
Exactly.
We're doing this right now. Even we talked about it in the collaboration song.
Totally.
Right?
Exactly.
Like
Like
Ash's comment.
you get to the point where you're kind of like, I don't know if we need all those events in there. Let's weed the garden a little bit and let some of those flowers show, Yeah, yeah. And that's a big thing about music that a lot of people forget about, is that actually music is the manipulation of the silences between the actual events of notes and beats. So the silences are a huge part of it. So whenever you can clear up a little space,
Go for it.
be brave, and allow other people kind of to inform your process at that point. Like when you speak of the production aspect, I relied heavily on what your impression was, or what Paul Rigby's impression was of a given tune.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped, because being the person who wrote the song and then has to be the performer on the recording, you're already coming at the experience with a whole lot of just your own weird room of mirrors, and you need some outside voices you can trust to say, maybe the penny whistle solo isn't going to quite cut it in this song, and I think we put this down in our notes, is allow other people to ruin your career for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it is hard for people to let go of that at times, but it's really beneficial to get an outside perspective, I find. It really does, and it's not easy. Like, I've worked with people where it's like you literally try to change the smallest thing and they're up in arms about it.
Oh yeah, no,
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's basically, a recorded song is like a carpet full of nerves.
Yeah.
and wherever you touch, something's gonna happen,
Yeah. Yeah. So no, and it's funny when you see. I think I know myself, being a producer and engineer. I always enjoy when people are, not that I don't, both ways, when someone has a singular vision, but I find the working process goes a lot easier too with helping someone on their songwriting when they're open to these critiques. It flows a lot better.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Um,
I think that they get to be more honest about the way that they actually fully actualize the piece.
mhm. Yeah.
If they're open to the creative process always being malleable, then it's really, if you look at it as, there are so many different opportunities to make the most of the song through the process of writing and recording. Take advantage of all of them, and part of that also includes canvassing other perspectives.
Yeah.
Even though you might feel like it upsets the noises in your own head that you feel are crucial, like it's hard, man. There are very few like super duper amazing professional musicians that can be, songwriter, main performer, engineer, producer. Like, and there are a lot of DIY people trying to pull that load, and it's hard, man. It's like it takes 4 very unique hats to fill all those shoes.
Oh.
Wow, that was a mixed clothing analogy. That was terrible. I'm so sorry about that. Let's just stick to shoes.
Shoes. Yeah, shoes.
Let's just stick to shoes. The shoes are very important, no matter what the hat is.
And yeah, no matter what, they gotta work together, right? And so, also tying into kind of this part about refinement, though, there is a point, and I think I've used this before in another Reimagine Radio content piece, but at what point should you let go of this? I mean, that process is up to the artist, but again, I think I've used this before where, a mixing engineer's done and it's a meme, but it's a skeleton over a mixing board. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
fully satisfied.
Yeah.
But you do at a certain point, and this is a skill that's difficult to, learn as well. is that, you know, at a certain point you have to be, you got to let it go and just let it be its own entity.
And at also, conversely, music itself as an art form is very fluid. And if you go, depending on who you follow, like you could go to a Pink Floyd concert right now or an Eagles concert, and you'd hear note for note what was on the record. But if you go to a Bob Dylan show and you listen to a song that he's performed 10,000 times, there'll be new lyrics and he'll be getting the band to do something totally different than what was on the record, right? Like, it depends how people treat their art. Some people feel like, like my friend Joe Stanton, he's got one song out of his catalog of hundreds of amazing songs. He has one song that he actually considers finished.
Yeah, there you go.
And he's recorded dozens and dozens and dozens of tunes, but when he plays this one tune, he's like, that's exactly what I wanted and it's done. But it's the only one he considers done out of his entire catalog, Yeah. So it's funny. It's different than like oil paintings. You're not, an artist isn't going to sneak into the Louvre and do a touch up on a piece of work that's been hanging in there, right?
No, of course not. Yeah. No, and it's again, when you re-listen, and then you see artists too that put re-releases out of their own stuff and
right
versions as well.
Yeah, like Radiohead doing like what was that album that was like, I mean, they had a version of Morning Bells that wasn't in 5 anymore. It was like Straight Ahead. It was like the remix of Kid A or something like that.
Yeah, there's Amnesiac.
Right, Amnesiac. That's it.
Yeah, it's 2 different versions of that one, which is
right.
Yeah, very, very cool and different than actually. And, I could go down that rabbit hole again.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to push you in somewhere deep there.
And then so this is our last point at the end of this, as you said, but let your career be ruined by others in this refinement section.
Yeah, and I really, it was kind of a dark way to say, don't be afraid to canvas the people you trust for direction to help you gain clarity, because sometimes when you own so much of something, it's hard to get that objective clarity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I guess we should have said this previous, but the idea of, there being a canon, like, I'm sure that all people who want to actually embark on writing songs probably have listened to a fair amount of music and have songs that are their favorites. And chances are, don't worry about reinventing the wheel right out of the gate. Have fun with a chord progression you're familiar with in a different context. And try to write your own melody with it and your own lyrics. You know what I mean? Like, have fun. Don't feel like everything has to be so completely new and revelatory that people will just cry at the mere mention of it. You know what I mean? Like, that's stacking the deck. Like, just write a song. Something you'll want to hum in the shower. Like, it doesn't have to be the be all and end all.
And that can also morph, because I've written pieces that I wasn't necessarily satisfied with, but then even just one little thing has changed and it's instantly captured my attention again. Say you're working on something for so long, and just like even going back to this collaboration song that VAMS is doing at this time, we were kind of working on this music for a while, but we had this idea of the piano, but switching that piano into clave and taking that right back has actually made me more like, it's reinvigorated that interest in the song for me.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I was worried actually that taking away the keyboard part would make you feel like it lost its identity.
No, like, that's the funny thing. When I was first starting in that, and again, this is, I guess, tying into a real life songwriting aspect.
Yeah.
Right now, what we're going through, but it actually, this one little change really is just made it. Yeah, it's really captured my interest and how it fits in. Like trying the clave, I never play it.
Right.
And then this, I guess this also kind of goes, because we were talking. You mentioned like changing the kind of genre, taking something that you kind of know, but playing with that kind of side of it.
Yeah.
And we're in the canon section right now of this framework, but again, this can also tie into research. What style you would like your song in.
Exactly. And I have to, like I said before, I have to presuppose that people who come here already have a sense of the genres and the styles that they gravitate towards naturally. Like, maybe you like bossa nova, or maybe you just like bluegrass, or or you're like a Norwegian death metal fan. Like I don't know, whatever floats your boat, make it happen.
Yeah.
And to move back, sorry, let me just jump back and on the point that you made about the little tiny things making all the difference when you go to change them.
Yeah.
I had a song I recorded a bunch of years ago with Joe called "Pain in the Night."
Yeah.
And I wrote that song and I played that song for 5 years until I realized that one chord I had made minor should have been major, and changed it. And it was like, and now I just want to play the song all the time, because it's like I finally feel like it found its own legs.
Right. No, and that's literally what happened this week with that track to a certain degree, where it finally, because you had like your guitar stuff came in and it's starting to settle better for me.
Yeah, I was so heavy on the Curtis Mayfield of my part that I had to be like, look, the keyboard player is a little ham-fisted. Let's go for clave organ, Let's make it funky.
Yeah, totally. So no, that was that again, it helps reinvigorate the creative process as well.
And it provides a little bit of irony to that song, because for the people who are watching, we're writing a song where the libretto has to do with a certain amount of base existential angst that comes from being in quarantine. But the backing music that we've created around this sentiment is anything but sad or doldrumy. Like, it actually sounds like, it's like Sly and the Family Stone territory almost,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, just also tying into the research aspect, I also want to add, having to a certain degree, and this can change as the process is going along, but having an idea of what production of the track you would like to sound like. And again, yeah. I'll just use this as an example, but say I normally gravitate more to, well, you were saying Curtis Mayfield, for instance, that kind of funk, or you want to say, look at something like Move On Up or Give Me Your Love, something like that.
Right, yeah.
Like having that idea, if you want it kind of more, saturated or dry, that coming in with as many ideas also helps the flow and dictates how the songwriting can change after the recording and into mixing.
Yeah, and the two inform each other as you move forward. Like that, once again, that dynamic becomes fluid. And like, say you write a song, yeah. and you get to the studio and you lay down what is a reasonably cool beat, but when you go back to listen to it, the engineer hasn't put anything on the drums or bass yet, so you're hearing it dry for the first time, but it's actually really kind of funky and stark. That could change the way you want to dress the thing for the rest of the session. Like, you might find yourself going, oh, I'd never thought about it that way. Yeah. And then, all of a sudden your creative juices start working on another equation, and all of a sudden there's a wah-wah guitar part and you've got horns in the background, and you're like, this was a country song 2 days ago.
Yeah, no, for sure. And again, yeah, that ties in, like, arrangements can morph after and into overdubs.
Yeah, don't get overly committed to anything. Be a lot of people describe their relationship with their creative side as like letting the muse in. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is kind of a spectral idea of this third-party spirit that informs your creative process. Yeah. And a lot of people over the years have said, you don't want to scare the muse. Like, it's, it could be by a gust of wind that she gets scared and vanishes forever. And, in a sense, not being overly committed to any one thing within any part of the process kind of leaves you open to the visit from the muse. Because it may be way late in the game when you actually solve, how to, crack the nut of a given song. And it's, in this day and age with digital recording, it's never too late to, like, go perestroika if you've got the budget, right?
No, and just to give an example of that, even just in my own songwriting with friends and things like that, there was a song that we were doing at Berkeley, and we just didn't know how to end it. It was basically, it was bass, drums, guitar, and, we kind of did a fade in, and it was just a trio thing.
That could be every song I've ever played at a blues jam before.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, it's not like, it's a very, one of those frameworks, right?
Yeah.
But the ending just didn't hit. And so what we actually ended up doing, and this was the last thing we recorded and mixed, like, it was literally like 2 days before we released it, it was just a little piano part at the end. There was no piano throughout the whole song.
Oh, nice.
Everything shuts kind of, the piano slowly comes in as the other stuff's finishing up. and then the piano just ends the whole piece.
Oh man, I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, and again, like having nothing in, and but seeing that morph in the overdubs, like having not even thought like, wait, we don't have a piano player throughout the whole session. Like
Right.
it was just my buddy who was like, here, let me just plunk out a few chords at the end,
Right.
and it just made it like the ending is it's probably one of the best parts of the song. You know, just because the way that it just kind of changes your expectation.
Yeah, exactly. And just, be fearless. Like that it's a living art form and it's a language. So, assemble the language in the things you want to hear said.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess now I think we can move on to the next section. I think we tied into everything we wanted to say there.
Okay.
Unless you had anything else.
Where are we moving to? What do you think is the next pickup?
The reiterate your first statement about write music in a genre that you gravitate towards.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, really, don't worry about reinventing the wheel, and approach things within frameworks that you've been used to listening to, and examine those frameworks and use them as an initial scaffold to kind of create things. And, if you're a fan of reggae, then, write a one-drop tune and, or, once again, folk or singer-songwriter, learn through imitation, except don't steal the melody line and the lyrics of another song. Otherwise, you're just playing a cover tune,
Yeah.
But
don't call that your own.
Don't call that your own. Yeah. But, you're welcome to take the chords for, Cats in the Cradle or something like that and write an entirely new melody line and lyric to it.
Yeah.
Someone might call and give you a hard time, but probably not.
Yeah. No, and then even the other, to, again, reiterate what we've talked about as well, is relating. Try to relate with others. And that your story, what you're trying to say. And again, I'll use an example here. And this just popped up recently in my head, but in the last month or so. But Joni Mitchell's "Help Me."
Right. Yeah.
That record again, the Courtin
Spark.
Yeah. And but like I think everyone can relate to like that track in particular.
Right.
So it's again very personal, but it like everyone's felt that.
That's it. Be honest about your own experience, but hopefully build a bridge to the more universal so that listeners can kind of meet you halfway with regards to what you're writing about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They'll bring their own experience into the listening of your song and basically embed it with their own kind of intrinsic meanings, mm-hmm. and they'll gravitate towards it and want to listen to it again because it will have it's almost like the song was born and the ducklings that were that song have now, grafted to the mother of the listener. I know I've just gone on a weird allegorical stretch there. Sorry.
No, not at all. It's your nursery sketch. I was going to say almost another way you could word that is like, oh my God, this person wrote that song specifically for me.
Right?
Yeah.
Which I'm sure is the bread and butter of a lot of people, like Taylor Swift writing about breaking up with boyfriends. Like I'm sure there's herds and herds of broken-hearted women out there who can listen to those songs and be like, exactly, say it, sister. You know what I mean? Like it gives bearing to a personal experience. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And then, I think, we kind of briefly mentioned this as well, but like another kind of a good skill, and this was actually, we had certain projects at Berkeley that I actually, at the time I was like, why are we doing this? But it actually was a lot of fun moving forward, but write in a genre that you're comfortable with and then flip it. And
right.
These weren't songs that we necessarily took, but we had two projects where we had to take a song and switch it into another genre. So for instance, one we did Take 5 but played it metal.
Right.
Or made
nice.
Good Day Sunshine into a reggae version.
Nice.
So and that also, again, maybe you'll find new legs for a different genre that you can write in or feel exactly. Like, yeah. And then I think, I'm just taking a look about...
and keep it fun.
Yeah.
Like through all of this, finding whatever story you want to tell, whatever chords you rest on, the melody line, the way you want to form the prose and the lyrics. Make sure that the process is fun every step of the way. Otherwise, why do it? If it's, If you could be just mowing the neighbor's lawn or something, then
And that's literally, I think I reiterate that further down is, and I say this to my clients, whether it's in the studio or whatnot, it's like, if music or what this is isn't fun, then why are you playing? Why are you writing?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? Like, this is why
Yeah.
we obviously have a passion for music. And so if it's a chore, and there have been certain aspects, like when my parents, when I was 6, would be like, Graham, go practice your piano.
Right.
I'd still now it's hilarious because I love playing the piano, but the time. But then I got my guitar, and you know couldn't get me off the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's funny because I think that that also needs to be exemplified through every part of your process while you're writing the song, while you're recording the song, while you're performing the song live for others. Other people are going to be able to bear witness to the enjoyment you feel
Mm-hmm.
from being creative and imparting whatever that invention is on other people, whether it's in a recorded form or live. And people will respond to that. They don't want someone who sounds like, well, the last thing I want to be doing right now is singing you this song because, I hate singing this song. Like, imagine if that's how, like, Johnny Cash had started concerts, eh? I'm going to play this song right now for you all, but I can't stand this song, and I prefer if you wouldn't clap.
I hope you don't enjoy it.
Exactly.
Like,
Right?
and there is something as well as taking space from certain pieces. Again, not to beat a tired horse here with this group, but Radiohead stopped playing Creep. Ultimately, it could be their biggest song ever for 10 years.
Yeah.
They were just done with it. And, but they started bringing it back on their last tour. And it seems like they have a new love for it, excitement.
Yeah, of course.
And, that, as you mentioned, it translates. And not to say that you won't get tired working on your songs, for instance.
Oh, man.
And that's another, like, thing to push through. Whether, I mean, you could use this for any type of art form, creative writing, painting, anything, but it's seeing the piece to the end, and it just is such a satisfying experience.
And it's also it sets up a bit of a dichotomy for the performer because I know when I get to the end of making an album, the last thing I want to do is play any of those songs because I've heard them 11,000 times each. And like not just the whole song, but like every bare naked aspect of every treatment of every track.
Yeah.
And then you're supposed to actually go out and play those songs for people live with the enthusiasm of like, I just got this today. And it's like man, it's a slog. Like you will get tired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's going to take a special kind of energy to get all the way over the finish line with something.
Mm-hmm. No, and it's that, as I said, like that's a skill in of itself to really get through that. I don't want to call it darkness or whatnot, but it's kind of like that. When you're spinning your wheels.
Yeah, there'll be creative fatigue and performative fatigue and just like ear fatigue because of the amount of analyzing and listening that you have to do to get to the end. And yeah, you're right. It's almost like you have to set yourself up so you're befriending that fatigue. Mm-hmm. Make it your friend. Get to know its scary little nooks and crannies because it's going to show.
For sure.
And for a lot of people, the first time it shows is with the critic voice.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why a lot of people have a hard time getting to the point where they shape a whole song. Because, the critic might enter the room way earlier. Like maybe you come up with one chord and one word, baby! And immediately a voice in your head goes, that sucks.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, we're not going to work anymore on that, so.
And the other thing, too, is showing people for the first time, not necessarily releasing something. But, like, it's funny, like, because, again, you become so attached to these pieces. Where there was one album that I put out in particular that I had thought was completed, but I kind of did a soft launch with like family, and there was a consistent consensus about the singer just didn't fit. The singer didn't work on it, and so
that's tough.
Well, and mentally I'm trying to think why, but I sat with it, and it's getting this critique, and you know what? It was one instance that didn't ruin my career, but it was the right move. It totally was.
Oh, good.
So I went back, re-recorded all the vocals with another person,
Wow.
and it made the whole thing stronger.
Nice. That's great, man. I know and when I go back to listen to my albums that I've recorded,
Mm-hmm.
it's never as exciting as it was just in the process of like recording it and mixing it like that, you know. I mean, I just put out an album a couple of years ago, or last year actually. It was
Yeah,
just last year. Sorry, it just feels like it's been a couple of years because we've been in quarantine.
yeah,
But you know, things that used to really excite me about listening to that CD, I already have problems now where I'm listening to songs and I'm like, how did I let that get released without it being way clearer than what it is there? You know, like it's funny, man. You know, you have to be prepared to live with your choices and your decisions, and not use it as a deterrent.
well, again, it's about letting go, right? But are those songs technically completed, Simon?
Well, that's the thing. I don't. Well, it's more just, you know, like the finished product of a CD, where
No.
you're kind of like, wow, I didn't listen to it on my Vans CD player. Boy, that low mid mud is way bigger on that tune than what I remember.
Yeah, no, different sources, right? Yeah. But I feel that we'll tag that one in for production of a record.
Okay. But those are, you know, I'm assuming that people that want to get into the songwriting game also want to be able to create artifacts of those things. So they want to do some kind of demoing or recording, no matter how scratch it is.
Yep.
And just be like, you know, there will be a process of fatigue and having to re-listen to the stuff you've played and recorded. And that will be a part of the process of getting to know what your limits are and your expectations and reconciling the two, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I guess so. Just given where we're at, why don't we kind of have a bullet list here of, you know, kind of things that you got this pretty much together. But this is kind of, I think, again, a little bit of a summary, but kind of a
right. Yeah, a checklist of things that you can make a part of your process or customize to fit you in whatever way.
yeah, great
Should
one.
I just read these as bullet points?
Well, yeah, why don't you go for it?
Okay, so here's a quick 12-step suggestion list, you know, and people have to just take this with a grain of salt. Whatever works for you. Get to know what makes you the most lucid and productive, but these are things that have helped me. So number one, get in a relaxed state, you know, maybe with a cup of tea, a little meditation. That's a bit of West Coast woo-woo language for you there. You know, or just ways to focus on your breath. You know, just be kind of internalize and be as quiet as you can mentally, you know. And make sure if you're playing a guitar, you know, make sure that your instrument's in tune, or a ukulele or whatever, you know. And if your piano's out of tune, don't worry about it. Out of tune piano songs can sound really cool, and it will be consistently out of tune. But I would say that you might want to invest in tuning that piano going forward. All right. For lyrics and stuff, you know, have a notebook and a pen handy. You know, perhaps one that you've been journaling in and you've collected some kind of lyrical snippets, you know. Things you've heard in passing that lingered as interesting ideas, or that have strong prosody, which is like, there you go, Exhibit A. Strong prosody, which is like the musicality of the rhythm of a phrase, you know. A friend of mine said on a phone call with me the other day, I told him that he made a comment, and I told him I liked his saltiness, and immediately said, yeah, I like to pepper my salt when I can. And I thought, man, that's a great lyric idea. Peppering my salt, you know, it's like, all right. So number 4, I'm sorry to be so, you know, dry and reading off a cue card here. Number 4, something to record with, you know, a memory aid, something that'll give you an artifact so you can listen back and kind of critically analyze what you're doing when you get to playing and singing and stuff. You'll hear things that you can't hear in the midst of performance by listening back to things you're recording and realize, oh, that word needs different syllables because it doesn't sound clear in that position, or, you know, the stress of that phrase should happen here and not there. You know, a lot of key kind of critical analysis comes at that point.
And even having, I would say, like, even the aid by your bed. You can wake up in the middle of the night and you just want to get the lyric down. Same thing with a pad, a note pen and a pad. But,
exactly. Easier to speak into something when you're half asleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Baby, 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 I love you, I love you, I love you. You know, as opposed to baby, 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 I love you, I love. Yeah. Now my wrist hurts. Yeah. All right. So number 5, fool around with the chords. Whatever you want, carte blanche. Maybe choose some sounds that best describe your lyrical snippet. This can be done also in an ironic fashion. You know, like it could be a sad minor chord but a happy lyric, or vice versa. Not all songs about rain need a sad chord progression.
Look at CCRs. Have you ever seen the
What's that?
CCRs? Have you ever seen the rain?
Right, the da da dum da da dum. Yeah, that's
Pretty major chords. Versus, yeah.
Very. All right. Number 6, try singing along to your chords. Sometimes I find using a jumble of syllables here. Seriously, I think like rhythmic gibberish. You know, what rhymes with rutabaga? I guess one could think of this as the way songwriters are speaking in tongues like you would at like an Orthodox Pentecostal church in the middle of a ceremony or something. These words can be informed by your lyrical nugget that's your starting point. Once again, this is just to kind of create base clay that you will refine and shape later on. Number 7, refer to your recording to see if you like the chords and the melody idea. We kind of already inferred that by talking about getting an aid for an artifact. And number 8, start to shape some lyrical ideas using your syllable mumbo jumbo as a catalyst. Once again, this all ties into, using the recording device as a way to sort of analyze your artifact. Mm-hmm. Just keep repeating that until you feel like you've got a full song structure. You got verses, you got a chorus, Maybe there's a middle eight or a bridge, maybe not. I'm not, you don't have to be married to that. Maybe it's just A. Maybe it's A, B, A, or A, B, C, All right. Number 10, revisit your ideas in editor to help refine the chord flow, melodic arc, and lyrical continuity. So this is the point where you put on your seriously critical pants and really measure small details and alter or commit them, But if you wait this long, you'll have more clay to work with rather than bringing the editor into the room too soon. Then if you're feeling brave enough, number 11 is where things get scary. Have someone else listen and critique your work. Ah! Yeah. You will be standing naked and alone in a room with someone. Exactly. Yes. There's nothing we can do about that. You got to get used to that part because that's really where the whole trick is turned.
Sink or swim.
And to revisit what we were talking about in the previous section, try writing in a genre that you do not feel comfortable with. Like you had said, taking a song that implies one kind of genre but flipping it on its head. Have fun with it, Maybe the thing you come up with, try playing it as a Latin tune. Try playing it as a rockabilly song. Try playing it as more of like a blues, Have fun with it. All right. That's the end of my 12-point list.
All right. Well, I think we're pretty much wrapping up here with everything for this second section and just a little bit of a recap of our first one. Was there anything you wanted to touch on before I maybe give a few little quotes just to kind of leave on a inspiring section? A really good way to look and measure at all of this process, all the advice we've given you, and however you choose to go through your process and make it your own. My friend Paul Blakey has a great quote, which is, "Time is art." So, give yourself the space and the time to get to a point where you feel like you're able to fully realize the things you embark on. And good luck. And now Graeme's going to fill you full of inspirational quotes. Exactly, just the end. Well, again, these quotes are just coming from the places, and we can touch on it again very briefly if we want, but what we had spoken about through both. And the first one I'm going to hit is a quote by John Mayer, but it's, "I hope that what it comes down to at the end of the day is that people believe that I believe what I'm saying." It comes down to being believable.
Yeah.
So again, it's what we were talking about earlier, is having that, people want to feel that you're being genuine. What you're actually trying to tell them, and I think that'll either come across in the song or whether you're playing your song live. right?
And if it's believable, then you'll get more of those instances you mentioned before where it's like people feel like you're speaking right to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, another one thing that we've talked about, but this is by Bob Dylan. If you like someone's work, the important thing to do is be exposed to everything that person has been exposed to. So
Right.
in a sense, whether it's you, and this could even tie into the production side that I was saying. If you like the song "Breathe" by Pink Floyd and you want that kind of spacey sound,
Yeah.
go listen to that and what piques your interest. And then I'll end with a quote by Joni Mitchell. You could write a song about some kind of emotional problem you are having, but it would not be a good song in my eyes until it went through a period of sensitivity to a moment of clarity. Without that moment of clarity to contribute to the song, it's just complaint.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Or, one habit people can get into is just public journaling.
Yeah.
Where it's like we don't need a whole bunch of diary entries. We need to contribute to a greater dialogue.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. And so, with that, I think this is going to wrap up our introduction to songwriting. Thank you,
Good
everyone.
luck, everybody. Just get out there and do it. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, G, as they say.
Have fun. Most importantly.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us again today. And I'm sure you'll see us with more content on Reimagine Radio and from VAMS. Thank you again, Simon.
Thanks, Graeme.
All right. Give my best to Kara and you take care, eh?
Okay, you too, man.